Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, we journey once more with Elara, beyond the veil of dreams, into a garden where whispers remember and light blooms eternal. Breathe deeply, let the world fall quiet, and open your heart to the stillness between the stars. If you enjoy stories that calm your soul and awaken wonder, please like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next tale in the Elara Chronicles. Now, let the lantern glow softly beside you and let the story begin. Elara and the Garden of Eternal Whispers. Part 1. The Moonlit Gate. The night had unfolded like a silk ribbon across the sky, pale and shimmering. Elara walked beneath it, following a narrow path that wound between sleeping meadows and quiet streams. Her lantern, the same one gifted to her after her journey among the stars, glowed faintly in her hand, its light not meant to guide her eyes, but her heart. She did not know what drew her this way, only that something in the air, a hush, a whisper, had called her name as twilight descended. It was not the voice of a person, nor the murmur of the wind. It was something older, something that waited. The breeze carried a scent unlike any she'd known before. Moonlit blossoms and memory itself. Each step seemed to hum beneath her feet, as though the earth remembered her passing. And then she saw it. At the edge of the forest, half veiled by vines and silver mist, stood a great archway of stone. It was ancient, carved with spiraling patterns that seemed to move when the lantern's glow touched them. A single vine of white flowers curled through the stone, blooming even in the chill of night. Elara paused. The air felt different here, neither still nor alive, but aware. It was as if the night itself was holding its breath. She stepped closer, her hand brushing the cool stone. The carvings pulsed faintly beneath her fingers, and she heard a sound, soft, like the turning of pages, or a sigh carried across centuries. A voice, not one of words, but a feeling seemed to whisper. Remember. Elara closed her eyes. In that instant, she saw a flicker of something, a garden bathed in silver light, its petals drifting upward like stars. But the vision was gone as quickly as it came. When she opened her eyes, the mist beyond the archway had thinned. There lay a path of pale stones leading into darkness, or perhaps into a dream. She hesitated for only a moment. Then, with a breath that trembled like dawn, she stepped through the gate. The world beyond was unlike any she had known. The air shimmered faintly, filled with the scent of night-blooming flowers and the soft hum of unseen life. Light came not from the moon above, but from the petals themselves, thousands of tiny blossoms glowing gently in hues of blue and lavender. They grew on vines that swayed though there was no wind, their movements slow, almost deliberate, as though they were breathing. Elara walked slowly, her lantern dim compared to the radiance of the garden. She felt the ground beneath her feet, warm, like living skin, and the hum grew stronger. Whispers filled the air, delicate as the rustle of silk. They weren't voices exactly, more like echoes of feelings: sorrow, joy, longing, peace. The garden seemed to speak through memory, each petal a fragment of something once felt, now blooming again in silence. Elara lifted her hand, and a petal drifted down, landing on her palm. The moment it touched her skin, a sound bloomed in her mind, a child's laughter, faint and distant, like a dream half remembered. The petal dissolved into light, and she felt warmth spread through her fingers. "Are these memories?" she whispered softly. The garden did not answer in words, but the vines along the path swayed, and the flowers glowed a little brighter. She took that as a yes. As she walked deeper, the path curved around a shallow pool. Its surface reflected the sky, but not the sky above. In its depths shimmered constellations she had never seen, slow and drifting, like seeds carried by wind. Elara knelt beside the pool. The whispers grew louder here, though still gentle, a chorus of countless lives overlapping like ripples. When she looked into the water, she didn't see her reflection. She saw a different version of herself, one smiling beneath a tree of golden leaves, another reaching for a lantern that hung among the stars. She understood then. This garden did not only remember the world, it remembered her. Every journey she had taken, every kindness offered, every moment she had paused to listen. The garden had gathered them like seeds in the soil. She spoke softly into the air. "Why have you called me here?" The light in her lantern flickered, as if the flame inside were listening too. And then, from somewhere unseen, a soft sound rose, like the sigh of wind passing through hollow reeds. The garden whispered again, "Because you are beginning to forget." The words settled over her like falling petals. "Forget?" Elara frowned. "I remember the stars. I remember the path they showed me. I remember." Her voice trailed off. Did she remember? Somewhere inside her, a hollow opened, not of sadness, but of distance. There were pieces missing, small and tender moments that once shaped her heart. Faces blurred, names faded, laughter turned faint. The world she carried inside her was losing its color. She knelt in the glowing grass, the truth unfolding like dawn. Every journey had brought her further from where she began. And though she carried wisdom and light, the memories that once gave them meaning had begun to fade into silence. The garden shimmered around her, vines trembling gently as if in empathy. Elara whispered, "You remember what I have forgotten." The pool rippled in answer, and for a moment she saw a figure, not herself, but someone else, a young girl running through fields of golden sun, a small lantern swaying from her hand. The girl's laughter echoed like music before fading into the petals. Elara's heart ached softly. The garden was not just alive. It was a keeper of forgotten things. Each bloom carried a memory, each whisper a fragment of a story lost to time. And now it was calling her, not to find something new, but to remember what she once was. The path led onward to a grove of great trees, whose branches curved together like a cathedral ceiling. Moonlight, or something like it, poured through the leaves, bathing the grove in silver and gold. In the center stood a stone bench, covered in moss and tiny luminous flowers. As Elara approached, she saw that it too was carved with shifting patterns, spirals and waves that pulsed faintly with light. She sat, setting her lantern beside her. For a long time, she simply listened. The garden's song had changed. It was slower now, deeper, a low hum like the earth breathing. And within that hum, she began to hear stories, not with her ears, but through her heart, the laughter of travelers who once rested beneath these trees, the quiet weeping of someone who had lost what they loved, the sigh of a soul who had finally found peace. All of it lived here, cradled in the garden's patient memory. And among those countless echoes, she began to hear her own, faint, almost shy, the sound of her voice long ago, when she first learned to listen to the light. A breeze swept through the grove, carrying petals that glowed like tiny stars. They drifted around her, circling in soft spirals before coming to rest upon her shoulders, her hands, her hair, and the whispers, those tender, endless whispers, spoke again, not in warning, but in welcome. You have wandered far, child of light. Sit a while and remember. Elara closed her eyes. The garden hummed softly beneath her palms. For the first time in many nights, she felt not like a wanderer, but like someone returning home. The petals glowed brighter, and her lantern joined their light, 2 heartbeats syncing, 2 memories meeting. The night deepened, the whispers faded into stillness, and somewhere in that silence, Elara began to remember. Part 2. The Path of Living Petals. When Elara awoke, the garden was breathing, not in the way a creature does, but in that quiet rhythm of light and shadow, the pulse of something vast and gentle, woven through every leaf and stone. The petals around her rose and fell with invisible tides, and her lantern, still warm beside her, flickered softly as though it too was dreaming. For a moment, she did not move. The world was peaceful in a way she had almost forgotten. No demands, no destination, only the sound of stillness speaking. She had dreamt, she realized, though perhaps dream was not the right word. She had remembered. Fragments lingered behind her eyes. A meadow beneath golden rain, her own laughter carried by wind, a voice saying, "Do not forget that even silence is alive." When she finally rose, dew sparkled on her cloak like tiny stars. The garden's path shimmered ahead, a ribbon of pale stones winding through the luminous mist. Somewhere deep within, she sensed that the garden was not done with her yet. Elara picked up her lantern and began to walk. The path curved through arches of blooming vines, their petals glowing faintly in the soft blue light. Each step felt like walking through a memory, though not hers alone. Whispers drifted by her ears, some laughing, some sighing, others murmuring fragments of lullabies lost to time. The flowers seemed to lean toward her as she passed, as if recognizing her presence. She reached out to touch one, a delicate bloom shaped like a heart, its light pulsing softly beneath her fingertips. When she brushed the petals, a vision unfolded. She saw an old man sitting beneath this very arch, humming to the vines. His voice trembled with age, yet the plants swayed as if answering him. Around his feet, seedlings glowed faintly, drinking in his song. Then the vision faded, leaving only the sound of her own breath. Elara smiled faintly. "The garden remembers kindness," she whispered, and as though in reply, the vines trembled gently, scattering petals across her path. Further along, the air grew warmer, carrying the scent of blooming lilies and silver moss. The light changed too, no longer steady, but rippling softly like water touched by moonlight. Elara soon found the source, a small stream flowing with liquid light. It wound lazily through the garden, its surface shimmering with reflections not of the sky, but of moments fleeting, beautiful, and alive. She knelt beside it, tracing a finger through the glowing current. Where her touch passed, ripples spread, revealing glimpses. A child planting a tree, two hands clasped beneath starlight, a mother whispering a story to her sleeping child. The stream was a mirror of the world's quiet love. All the unseen, unspoken memories that never reached the stars. A voice soft as a petal falling brushed against her heart. "Do you see what remains when all else fades?" Elara closed her eyes and listened. "Yes," she breathed, "the gentle things." The stream shimmered brighter, its light reflecting across her face like dawn. When she rose again, she followed the current upstream. It wound through the glowing fields until it disappeared into a grove where the air was thick with fragrance. There she found something wondrous. The path ended at a meadow of living petals. Thousands, no, millions of blossoms covered the ground like a rippling sea, their light moving in waves. Each flower glowed a different shade: blue for memory, gold for joy, lavender for sorrow, silver for peace. The colors merged and separated in slow rhythm, as though the garden itself were breathing through them. Elara stood at the edge, breath caught in her throat. The beauty was overwhelming, but so was the stillness beneath it, an undercurrent of longing, as if each bloom waited to be seen, to be remembered. She took a cautious step forward. The petals moved, not away from her, but toward her, gathering around her feet like a welcoming tide. With each step, she felt emotions ripple through her body: warmth, nostalgia, laughter, tears. The memories weren't hers, but she carried them as though they were. When she reached the meadow's center, the whispers grew clearer, countless voices overlapping in harmony. They did not speak in language, but in feeling, weaving a song that seemed to echo inside her very soul. And there, amid the chorus of the garden, she heard a single distinct whisper, faint but unmistakable. Elara. She froze. The voice was gentle, familiar, like wind passing through a memory. Who are you? She whispered. The petals stirred, forming a soft spiral that shimmered with gold. A figure seemed to rise from within, not fully seen, more felt, shaped of light and shadow, like a memory taking form. I am the echo of what you've left behind, the voice said, tender and kind. Every step you took through the realms of light and dream left a trace, and this garden gathered them all. I am that remembering. Elara's breath caught. You're me. In part, the voice said, its tone like water gliding over stone. But also the earth that held your footsteps, the sky that listened when you spoke, the hearts you touched without knowing. We are all made of echoes, Elara, and this is where they rest. The petals glowed brighter, their colors deepening, until the whole meadow shimmered like a living constellation. Elara felt tears form, not of sadness, but of awe. Why show me this? Because light forgets its shadow, the voice replied. And even wanderers of light must learn that remembering is a kind of love. The garden fell silent then, the kind of silence that isn't empty, but full. Elara stood in the middle of that glowing field, her lantern flickering softly at her side. She realized now that the light she carried was not separate from this place. It was part of the same endless remembering. Her journeys had not been about discovery alone, but about returning to herself, to the quiet, to the memory of gentleness that all things shared. She closed her eyes. The petals stirred, brushing against her hands and arms, whispering in waves of sound like 1,000 lullabies. And within that sound, she heard something deeper, not voices now, but music. Soft and endless, like the heartbeat of the world. It filled her, wrapped around her. And for a moment, she became part of it. Another whisper in the garden, another memory blooming among the living petals. When she opened her eyes again, the figure was gone. Only the rippling flowers remained, their glow calm and steady. She took one petal in her hand. It shone a deep golden hue, warm and gentle. When she pressed it to her chest, it dissolved into light, and her lantern flared softly in response, as though recognizing something long lost. A feeling of peace settled within her. Thank you, she whispered, and the wind, if it was wind, seemed to answer. The petals around her swayed, and the path behind her began to glow faintly once more, leading onward deeper into the garden's heart. Elara lifted her lantern, its glow steady and kind, and though the garden's whispers faded into quiet, she knew they were still there, beneath the light, beneath the soil, waiting to bloom again when the world needed to remember. With a final glance at the sea of living petals, she walked onward, the sound of her footsteps blending into the hum of the eternal garden. Part 3. The voice beneath the leaves. The night had deepened, yet the garden shimmered with an inner light that never dimmed. A gentle haze drifted across the winding paths, carrying with it the scent of dew and jasmine, and beneath it all, a whispering current of words that Elara could almost understand. She walked slowly, her lantern aglow with its soft, golden pulse, its flame responding to the invisible language that danced in the air. Every rustle of a petal, every tremor of a leaf, seemed to hum with memory, as though the garden were trying to speak, and Elara was just learning to listen. She paused beside a small fountain, carved from stone older than time. Its water was impossibly still, reflecting not the night above, but scenes that felt like dreams. Shadows of people walking through this same place long ago. Their faces were gentle, distant, like the memory of a song. "The garden remembers," whispered the voice that came not from around her, but through her. It was not frightening, nor even strange. It felt like warmth flowing through her chest, soft and familiar. "Who are you?" Elara asked quietly, her voice barely rising above the whisper of the leaves. "We are the echoes of what once was, and what might be again." The air trembled. The vines on the walls around her stirred as though woken from sleep. Tiny motes of light floated between them, coalescing into faint outlines of figures, not ghosts, but fragments of memory, each one luminous and delicate. They moved like wind through the blossoms, brushing against Elara's lantern. And then she understood. The garden was not haunted. It was alive with remembrance. "Every step that touches our soil leaves behind a trace," the voice continued. "Every thought, every kindness, every sorrow, we keep them, as petals keep the scent of rain." Elara closed her eyes, listening. In the hum of the vines, she could hear laughter, the laughter of a girl who once played by the fountains. In the hush of the moss, she heard a lullaby whispered by a mother long gone, and in the slow rhythm of the earth beneath her feet, she heard her own heartbeat, joining the chorus of life that never truly ended. Tears filled her eyes, though she could not say why. Perhaps it was because the garden's voice reminded her of all she had lost, and all she had found along her journeys: the lantern, the starlit paths, the people who appeared and vanished like dreams. She realized that everything she'd ever touched, every kindness she'd offered or received, had been woven into the same great tapestry. "Why do you show me this?" she whispered. "Because you carry a light that remembers too," said the voice, "and it calls to ours." Her lantern flickered, responding to the words like a living thing. The flame leaned forward, stretching toward the center of the fountain. There, the water began to ripple, breaking the illusion of the old memories, revealing something beneath. Roots, vast and ancient, glowing with faint veins of light, pulsing like the veins of the earth itself. Elara knelt beside the fountain. The whispers grew louder, though never harsh, a gentle layering of tones, as though hundreds of soft voices were speaking at once. They weren't words now, but feelings. Peace, longing, hope, 1,000 lives interwoven beneath the soil. she dipped her fingers into the fountain. The water was warm, impossibly warm, and the moment her skin touched it, the world around her shifted. She was no longer in the same garden. The air shimmered, and she found herself standing in a vast field of light, a vision woven from the garden's memory. Petals drifted like snowflakes through the silver air. In the distance stood a great tree. Its branches glowed with golden fruit, and from its roots flowed the same streams of light that ran beneath the garden. At its base sat a figure made of pure luminescence, still and calm. Elara approached. As she drew near, the figure lifted its head, revealing no face, only a reflection of stars and wind, and the faint shimmer of all living things. "You have walked far, light-bearer," it said. "Do you know what it means to listen to the silence of the world?" Elara hesitated, then shook her head softly. "I'm still learning." The figure smiled without a mouth, and petals fell like slow rain. "Then you are exactly where you should be." The ground pulsed beneath her feet, a rhythm not unlike a heartbeat. And Elara realized the field of light was alive. Every blade of grass, every flicker of wind, every sparkle in the air carried a whisper. And all those whispers formed a single breath. "Everything remembers," the figure said, "even silence, even dreams." Then the vision began to fade, gently, like a tide receding back into the sea. The golden light dissolved into silver mist. The tree became the fountain again, and Elara found herself kneeling once more beside the still water. Her lantern flickered, then steadied, glowing with a deeper, more resonant warmth than before. The voices were fading now, their whispers quieting to the sound of the wind. "Thank you," she said softly, and somewhere within the vines, the air seemed to sigh in return, content, peaceful. Elara stood. The path behind her was gone, replaced by a corridor of flowers that opened ahead, leading deeper into the heart of the garden. There the air shimmered like dawn. As she began to walk, she felt as though the ground remembered each of her steps, and that the garden, in its quiet way, was walking beside her. She whispered to the wind, "I will listen," and the garden, gentle and eternal, whispered back, "Then we will speak." Part 4. The Heart of the Garden. The garden grew quieter as Elara walked deeper within it. So quiet that she could hear the faint rhythm of her own heartbeat echoing in the stillness. The moon hung low now, resting on the horizon like a patient guardian, and its light scattered across the flowers, turning their edges silver. Every few steps, Elara felt a pulse beneath her feet, a slow thrum, as though the ground itself were breathing. The whispering had softened into something gentler now. Not words, but a melody carried by the rustle of petals and the sigh of the wind. Her lantern glowed warmer than ever, as if it too had found comfort in this silence. The air shimmered with golden dust, like the remnants of forgotten dreams. Ahead, the path curved and widened into a clearing unlike any she had seen before. The air was thick with luminous mist, swirling gently around a vast circular pool. In its center stood a single tree, tall, ancient, and impossibly alive. Its trunk shimmered like pale glass, its branches crowned with thousands of translucent leaves that glowed faintly from within. Each leaf seemed to hold a faint, flickering image, moments of life caught in their veins. A mother's smile, a child chasing the wind, a lantern raised in darkness, a star falling into a calm sea. Elara stood in awe. This was the heart of the garden, the source of all the whispers. She stepped closer, her footsteps barely making a sound. The moment her light touched the air around the pool, ripples spread across its surface. The reflections of the leaves shimmered and rearranged themselves, and for an instant she saw herself walking the same path again and again through time, each version of her carrying the same lantern, each one searching for light. The garden was showing her not just memories of others, but memories of her own spirit. All her journeys, all her questions, all the quiet courage it took to wander, they lived here, in the still heart of the garden. Elara lowered herself to her knees at the edge of the pool. "Is this where it all ends?" she whispered. "No," said a voice behind her, soft and deep as the earth. She turned, and standing among the silver vines was the luminous figure she had glimpsed in her vision. It was neither man nor woman, neither young nor old, but a being of pure remembrance. Its shape shifted gently, like light passing through water. "This is not the end, light-bearer," the figure said. "This is where things begin again." Elara rose slowly. "I don't understand. What is this place truly?" The figure extended a hand toward the great tree. Its leaves shimmered brighter in response. "This garden is memory made alive. It keeps the quiet things, the moments forgotten by the world, the kindnesses no one saw, the tears shed beneath the stars. Every soul leaves behind echoes. Here they are kept safe." The words brushed gently against her heart. Elara looked up at the glowing leaves again, at the way they seemed to breathe, to tremble, to remember. "Why show me this?" she asked softly. "Because you listen," the figure replied. "And because you carry a lantern that listens too." Elara's lantern flickered, its light dancing across the roots of the great tree. For the first time, she noticed how the roots seemed to weave toward her feet, almost as if reaching for her warmth. "The garden is not asking to be found," said the voice. "It is asking to be understood. And you, Elara, are part of its memory now." A breeze passed through, setting every leaf aglow. Thousands of shimmering moments lighting up the clearing like stars caught in branches. In their glow, Elara saw fragments of her past journeys. The star weaver's loom glistening in the void, the sea from Candle by the sea, the lantern she found in the forgotten realms. Each story, she realized, was connected, not by chance, but by an unseen thread of remembrance and light. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "If everything remembers, What happens when even memory fades? The figure tilted its head, and the leaves above responded with a soft, sighing chorus. Nothing truly fades, it said. Even silence remembers being sound. Even darkness remembers light. What you call forgetting is only resting, the pause between heartbeats. Elara felt her chest tighten with quiet awe. She knelt once more and touched the surface of the pool. Her reflection stared back at her, but behind it shimmered the outlines of countless faces, each faintly smiling. Are these the voices I've been hearing? Yes, the figure answered. They are the lives that once touched this earth. Some still wander the wind, some rest in the roots. They speak not to haunt, but to remind. Remind us of what? That nothing good is ever lost. Elara's breath caught in her throat. The garden seemed to pulse around her, not louder, but fuller, as though the air itself were singing. The leaves moved in slow unison, their light weaving together in spirals of silver and gold. The figure stepped closer. There is one more thing you must do before you leave this place. Elara stood, holding her lantern close. What must I do? The being of light extended its hand toward her. From the great tree, a single leaf drifted down, glowing faintly, trembling as it fell. It landed softly in Elara's palm. The leaf was warm. Inside its glass-like veins shimmered a tiny golden light, the shape of a memory she could not yet name. This is your echo, said the voice, a reflection of what the garden has seen in you. Take it with you when you go. One day, it will guide another wanderer here. Elara's fingers closed gently around the leaf. Her lantern flared brighter, its flame mingling with the glow from the leaf, until both lights became one. The wind sighed again, and the whispers of the garden rose softly, not as confusion now, but as harmony. She could hear laughter and lullabies, oceans and rainstorms, all blending together into something ancient and beautiful. The figure began to fade, its light becoming part of the air once more. You are never alone, Elara, it whispered. Even when you walk in silence, the world walks with you. Then it was gone. Elara stood for a long time in the clearing, surrounded by the gentle song of the leaves. She placed the glowing leaf inside her lantern. The flame within changed, deepening into a soft gold threaded with silver light. When she turned back toward the path, the mist parted before her, leading the way out of the heart of the garden. And as she walked, the whispers followed her, not as voices, but as presence, soft as breath. She did not look back. She didn't need to. The garden was alive within her now, its memory resting in the lantern's quiet flame, its song breathing softly in her soul. Part 5. The Garden Remembers. The path that led out of the heart of the garden was softer now, almost like walking through a dream. The mist had thinned into veils of silver light, and the air carried that quiet stillness that comes only after something sacred has spoken. Elara walked slowly, the lantern in her hand, glowing with its new gold-and-silver hue. Inside, it rested the small, luminous leaf, the echo the garden had given her, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. She felt no need to rush. The garden seemed to breathe with her, its every rustle and sigh in rhythm with her steps. It was no longer a place she was exploring, but a presence walking beside her, unseen yet deeply known. As she passed through the arches of living vines, she noticed that the whispers had changed. They no longer murmured as before, they sang, a quiet melody, woven from memory and wind, rising and falling with the soft grace of waves. Elara smiled. "You're still here," she said aloud, and the leaves trembled gently in reply. For a moment, she thought of all the places she had wandered, the starlit paths, the sea, the forgotten realms where light and memory intertwined. Each journey had led her back to one truth, that even the smallest flicker of kindness, the faintest echo of love, never truly disappeared. It became something like the garden, unseen, but eternal, whispering softly beneath the surface of all things. The moon began to lower, and dawn stretched its first pale colors across the horizon. The silver hues of the garden slowly warmed into gold and rose, and petals glistened with the first drops of morning dew. Elara followed the path until it led to a stone bridge draped in flowering ivy. Beneath it flowed a quiet stream, glowing faintly with reflected light. On the other side stood the moonlit gate, the same one through which she had first entered. It now looked different, not because it had changed, but because she had. Where she had once seen mystery, she now saw gentleness. Where she had once heard whispers, she now heard welcome. She paused before stepping across, turning to look one last time at the garden behind her. It shimmered softly, breathing in and out like a sleeping heart. "Will I ever return?" she asked quietly. The air stirred, and the whisper that came was almost too soft to hear. "You never left." The words settled in her chest like a sigh. Elara closed her eyes for a moment and listened. Somewhere deep within the garden, a bird began to sing. A single, clear note that carried through the mist like a promise. When she opened her eyes again, she saw the path begin to fade, not vanish, but dissolve into the air, becoming light. It was time to go. She crossed the bridge. The ivy brushed against her shoulders, and tiny petals fell into the stream, carried away into the unknown. Beyond the gate, the world waited, still dim with morning twilight. The air was cool and soft, carrying the scent of moss and rain. Elara stepped out into it, her lantern glowing steady beside her. But something was different now. The light no longer felt like something she carried. It felt like something that carried her. She paused at the edge of a small meadow and turned her face toward the rising sun. Its warmth touched her cheeks, mingling with the faint silver glow of the garden still resting on her skin. And as the light deepened, she realized she could still hear the garden, not with her ears, but with her heart. Its whispers lingered beneath every sound. The rustle of leaves, the murmur of the wind, the rhythm of her own breathing. They were no longer words, but understanding. Every kindness remembered, every silence held with care, every step she would take, watched over by the quiet memory of the garden that had loved her enough to let her go. She lifted the lantern higher, and inside it, the small leaf shimmered with a pulse of light. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw the reflection of her own smile, but softer, older, like the memory of herself from another life. "You are part of the remembering now," the wind whispered. Elara smiled through the morning light. "Yes," she said softly, "and I will carry it wherever I go." She began to walk again, toward the distant woods that shimmered like dreams waiting to be told. Behind her, the garden watched quietly, its whispers fading into the hum of dawn. But even as the light grew stronger, one last voice lingered, faint as breath, steady as time. "In every heart that listens, we bloom again." And in that moment, as the first rays of sun broke across the world, Alara's lantern shone brighter than ever, a light that remembered, a warmth that healed, and a promise that even silence carries song. Later that day, as the wind stirred through a forest far from the garden, a single petal drifted down onto the earth, soft, silver, and faintly glowing. It landed beside a small path where a traveler paused to rest. He picked it up, smiled, and for a reason he couldn't name, felt peace wash over him. When he looked ahead, he thought he saw a faint shimmer on the horizon, the outline of a gate, half hidden in mist. And so, without quite knowing why, he began to walk toward it. The garden remembered, and it whispered again. "Thank you, dear dreamer, for wandering with Elara tonight. The garden of eternal whispers will always remember your presence. As every kindness, every quiet moment becomes part of its living light. If this story brought you peace, please like, subscribe, and leave a gentle comment to keep our lantern glowing for others who seek calm and wonder. Until next time, may your dreams be soft and your heart at ease. Good night from Elara and the Whispering Garden.